There's this thing that happens on the spiritual path that nobody really warned you about. You start waking up, start healing, you start asking deeper questions about yourself and your life and why you're here. And suddenly your world becomes filled with books and podcasts and teachers and modalities and practices and downloads and synchronicities and shadow work and nervous system work and inner child work and breath work and Reiki and astrology and human design and manifestation techniques and moon rituals and energy updates and quantum theories and sacred geometry. And somewhere in the middle of all of it, you realize something. You're consuming more spirituality than you're actually living. I think a lot of people quietly become addicted to becoming more healed, more awakened, more aligned, more evolved, more enlightened. Now, don't get me wrong, growth is a beautiful thing. Healing matters, expanding your consciousness matters. But there comes a point where the search itself starts creating chaos. You're taking in so much information from so many voices and systems and teachers and perspectives that you stop trusting your own inner knowing altogether. And instead of becoming more grounded, you become spiritually overwhelmed. Not because spirituality is bad, not because the journey is wrong, but because at some point, growth without integration just becomes noise. I think a lot of us need permission to stop chasing the next breakthrough long enough to actually live the truths that we've already learned. Today's episode is called Addicted to Becoming, Learning Too Much, Living Too Little.
Welcome to Aligned AF, real talk for evolving souls with Yahweh Kent. Join Yahweh for honest conversations on spiritual growth, the messiness of life, and how to move through it all at a higher frequency. So grab a cup of tea and let's sail in. This is Aligned AF, and here's Yahweh.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to Aligned AF, real talk for the evolving soul. I am Yahweh. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today, whatever day it is for you. And I want to thank everybody that's been connecting with my podcast lately. I've been getting a ton of attention. The latest episodes of season 2 have really been doing well. And I want to thank each and every one of you that's been listening. I want to thank you if you're a new listener. I want to encourage folks to like and subscribe. That helps me kind of figure out where my audience is and what shows work and what shows don't. I also would like to encourage you to share it. Share the episodes that resonate with you. Share them with somebody that you think kind of thinks the way you do, or maybe needs to. Who knows? But share them. So I'd appreciate that. Today, I want to start you off with a question. How many spiritual books are sitting on your shelf right now? Now, I can look over across the office and I can see an entire bookcase filled with spiritual books and tarot cards and journals and uh, the Keys of Enoch and the Bhagavad Gita and shamanic books and a book that I wrote. I mean, just it's full. How many podcasts are sitting in your queue? I've liked and subscribed to a lot of podcasts that resonated with me. How many saved posts or bookmarked videos or classes or certifications or teachings or downloads and practices are waiting for your attention? And here's a harder question: how much of what you've already learned are you actually living? Because that's where this conversation begins. Most spiritual journeys begin from a sincere place. They begin from pain or curiosity or a desire for healing, a longing to understand ourselves more deeply. And honestly, that's a beautiful thing. The search can feel exciting. Every new teaching feels like a missing puzzle piece. Every new perspective feels like it opens another door. Every breakthrough feels like proof that you're growing. But somewhere along the way, many of us stop practicing spirituality and start collecting it. We collect teachings, we collect modalities, we collect information, we collect perspectives. And without realizing it, we start measuring our growth by what we've consumed rather than what we've embodied. It's like reading every fitness book ever written while never actually stepping into the gym. You know the language, you understand the concepts, you can explain the process, but your life remains largely unchanged. And spirituality can become exactly the same thing. Knowledge begins masquerading as transformation. Information begins disguising itself as wisdom. And because learning feels productive, we rarely notice it's happening. Maybe that's why so many people feel spiritually full but emotionally hungry. They're drowning in wisdom while starving for peace. I think one of the sneakiest traps on the spiritual path is that healing can become part of our identity. Without realizing it, we become attached to being the seeker, the healer, the awakened one, the conscious one. And then something strange happens. Healing stops being something we're doing and starts becoming who we think we are. Our worth gets tangled up in our progress. We begin believing that peace is waiting on the other side of one more breakthrough, one more course, one more ceremony, one more revelation, one more layer of healing. And the finish line keeps moving. Because if your worth depends on becoming better, you'll never allow yourself to arrive. You'll always be one breakthrough away from enough, one awakening away from deserving love, one healed wound away from acceptance. And honestly, that's exhausting. And sometimes people aren't addicted to healing, they're addicted to the idea that the next breakthrough will finally make them worthy of peace, worthy of love, worthy of belonging, worthy of themselves. And that's a race that never ends because worthiness was never something you had to earn in the first place. I think many spiritual communities accidentally create a different kind of pressure in all this. It's the pressure to appear evolved, to appear calm, to appear centered, to appear high vibe all the time. As if conscious people don't get angry, as if awakened people don't get frustrated, as if spiritual people never lose their patience in traffic. They never snap at their spouse. They never worry about money or have difficult days. But that's not awakening, that's performance. Real spirituality doesn't remove your humanity, it teaches you how to be present with it. And yet, so many people end up judging themselves for perfectly normal human experiences. They feel guilty for sadness. They feel ashamed if they get angry. They're embarrassed if they become jealous. They're frustrated by their triggers all the time, as though being human somehow means they're failing spiritually. But maybe you're not failing. Maybe you're just alive. Maybe growth was never about transcending your humanity. Maybe it was about learning how to embrace it. Eventually, another challenge will show up in your life. There are simply too many voices. There are too many opinions. There are too many systems, too many experts, and not enough trust in yourself. One teacher tells you to surrender, another tells you to take aligned action. One says dissolve the ego, another says strengthen your sense of self. One says let go, another says manifest intentionally. One says detach, another says feel everything. And after a while, you don't know which voice to follow anymore. And the irony is that many people start their spiritual journey looking for freedom and accidentally end up looking for someone else to tell them what to think. That's when spirituality starts creating confusion instead of clarity. Because eventually, the most important question is not what does this teacher believe? The most important question becomes what feels true for me? Discernment is what transforms information into wisdom. And without discernment, we're just collecting opinions. And I think this is where the entire conversation starts to come together. The missing piece isn't more information, it's integration. Real growth happens when wisdom leaves your head and enters your life. When your relationships begin reflecting what you've learned, when your reactions begin reflecting what you've learned, when your choices begin reflecting what you've learned. Your nervous system needs time to absorb truth. Your heart needs time to absorb truth. Your life needs time to absorb truth. Because wisdom without embodiment changes nothing. Sometimes simplicity is more transformative than another breakthrough. Sometimes the deepest spiritual practice isn't learning something new. Sometimes it's sitting quietly with something you already know and living it and practicing it and allowing it to reshape your life from the inside out. Bringing awareness into your parenting, bringing it into relationships, into your work, into conflict, into rest, into an ordinary Tuesday afternoon, because that's where transformation actually lives. Not in the retreat, not in the certification, not in the next viral spiritual post, but in the thousand ordinary moments where you choose to practice what you've already learned. And maybe that's the real innovation. Maybe the innovation isn't to become more. Maybe the innovation is to stop running toward the next version of yourself long enough to meet the one who's already there. Stop treating yourself like a project that always needs fixing, and stop postponing peace until after the next breakthrough. And stop believing that your worth is hiding somewhere in the future. Because what if the version of you you're trying so desperately to become isn't actually waiting ahead of you? What if they're sitting right here, patiently waiting for your attention? Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one thought. Imagine somebody who spends years studying how to swim. They buy the books, they watch the videos, they attend seminars, they learn about buoyancy and breathing and body position and water resistance and stroke mechanics and every swimming technique that's imaginable. They can explain swimming better than most swimmers. They can teach it, they can talk about it, they can debate it, they can analyze it, but they never actually get in the water. Now, most of us would immediately see the problem. Knowledge has never been the point. Swimming was. And yet, I think a lot of us do exactly this with spirituality. We study peace instead of practicing peace. We learn about presence instead of being present. We collect teachings on love while forgetting to embody love. We become experts on healing while avoiding the uncomfortable moments where healing actually happens. Not in the classroom, not in the book, not in the podcast, but in real life, in conversations, in relationships, in parenting, in forgiveness, in conflict, in grief, in joy, in traffic, in ordinary Tuesday afternoons. Because spirituality was never meant to become another subject to master. It was meant to become a way of living, a way of showing up, a way of meeting life. And maybe that's the innovation and the invitation. Not to stop learning, not to stop growing, not to stop seeking, but every once in a while to put the book down, to turn the podcast off. Well, maybe not this one. Step away from the next technique and ask yourself a simple question. What truth do I already know that I'm not fully living? Because the answer to that question may be more valuable than 100 new techniques. The next breakthrough might not come from learning something new. It might come from finally practicing something you've known all along. And maybe that's what real awakening looks like. Not gathering more wisdom, but becoming the wisdom you've already gathered. And remember that through all of it, the lessons, the healing, the searching, the stumbling, the growth, and the grace. You really are getting closer to aligned AF every single day. See you next time.
Well, thanks for hanging out with me today. If this episode spoke to you at all, share it with a friend or someone who needs it. You can also leave a review or connect with me online. You can find Aligned AF on YouTube, Facebook, your favorite podcast channel, or at alignedaf.org. And if you want to reach out directly, you can email me at alignedafpodcast@gmail.com. So until next time, stay aligned AF.